Orbiting 250 miles above, the space station provides us with the ultimate view of planet Earth. From this perspective, we ask our guests to engage with 6 questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. For the next few minutes, this is our Wonderspace.
Welcome to the 99th episode of the Wonderspace podcast, which is an expression of a family trust called Panaper. My name is Steve Cole, and since September 2020, I have asked the same 6 questions to over 90 people from around the world. People like Chef Ivor Peters, who in episode 26 talked about a life-changing trip to Chennai, which inspired the creation of his Indian food business Urban Raja, and also highlighted the issue of millions of people who are caught up in human slavery around the world. We are thrilled to be drawing from the wonder of Ask Nature, who are a project of the Biomimicry Institute. Their work looks to nature for inspiration to solve design problems in a regenerative way. Here is another moment to help us re-wonder.
Life in the desert faces many challenges, including being periodically sandblasted by racing winds. For those creatures who wear their skeletons on the outside, that powerful scouring could mean deadly levels of erosion. But life finds a way. The desert scorpion meets this challenge with microscopic texturing across its outer surface. Thin grooves catch the air as it moves across the scorpion's body and spin it in the opposite direction, creating a turbulent cushion. That cushion of air deflects some of the incoming wind and sand without them ever touching the scorpion. The grains of sand that make it through are still slowed by the reverse flow of the cushion and hit the exoskeleton with reduced force. A graceful interplay of physics and biology at just one of the infinite scales at which living creatures must interact with their surroundings.
This week on Wonderspace, we orbit with Chrissy Levett, who is the founder and creative director of Creative Conscience, a global platform that encourages, trains and rewards creative thinking for social justice and sustainability. Chrissy believes that design and creative thinking should be used to solve global challenges and as a form of positive activism. With this expansive overview of Earth, I start by asking Chrissy if we could do a fly past on any part of the world that is significant to you. Which place, city or country would it be and why?
Wow, well, this might sound really a bit dull, but it would be the UK, and it would be anywhere in the UK which is by the sea, like staring out at the sea, because I love the sea. I feel slightly ashamed to say that I've visited and worked and travelled in probably about 120 countries, which is, I feel a bit ashamed around that because now what we know around the climate crisis and moving around the planet and stuff. But I love this country so much. I love the greenness of it. I love the diversity of it, the tolerance, its culture, the landscape. It's so varied. You know, you could be in Scotland in the hills or you could be in Devon, and it's like, I don't know, I just really love this land, and I love the darkness of British humor and kind of even our sort of sarcasm. I don't know, I love it.
Chrissy, give us a glimpse into your life story so far with an emphasis on what you are doing currently.
So in a nutshell, very quick, British born, the youngest of 6 kids, grew up in quite a strange, how would I describe, like a sect, if you like, something called the Plymouth Brethren that really not many people know about. It's quite a strange, dark upbringing, I'd say. And I couldn't get out of there fast enough, and I escaped to art school. basically because I couldn't really read and write, but I could just draw and invent, and was just a bit of a nutter. So I went to art school, had a brilliant time, loved it, came out of art school and just worked kind of freelance in what we call, I suppose, the design industry as a job in graphic designer. I trained actually as an illustrator and printmaker, but then went to the Royal College of Art and did graphics there. And so just became this kind of job in freelance designer, because when I left college, there was a big recession and no one was giving anyone any work. And then during that time, I was passionate about seeing the world, partly because I couldn't read. I learned through seeing things and hearing things, and it was kind of pre-phones and podcasts. So I would just travel almost in order to learn, and ended up during that time working for a number of different NGOs in different countries. And then I would come back and work freelance and then go back to work in different places for sort of charities and stuff like that. And then that was my kind of life, really, until I had a couple of kids, and then I couldn't really go to war-torn countries anymore. They wouldn't let me. Well, I didn't want to take my kids there. And I had a massive midlife crisis in my 40s. And then out of that midlife crisis came this idea of building a creative platform that would encourage the creative industry, the design industry, to use its talents for social and environmental impact. And that was 10 years ago. And so I gradually let go of my old design life, which was basically building products and brands that were really actively destroying our futures, and moving towards using creativity to build better. And so that's what I kind of do full time now, is help with a community of people run this thing called Creative Conscience. And that I would describe as a kind of global platform, empowering and rewarding and training creative thinkers to use their talent for social environmental impact. And so we've had to date thousands and thousands of projects from all over the world, mostly from young people, where they've taken a situation that might have been negative in their lives, and through that negative situation, they've used their talent and skills then to build a positive solution. And we've got many, many examples, but there are a few that really, spring to mind in terms of the impact that they had. So there was a young girl, she was Romanian actually, but she was studying in the UK here, illustration and animation. And she created a project on teenage suicide and bullying. She built this beautiful, it was just stunning graphic novel. It was 166 pages, all digitally drawn, around this issue of bullying. And she'd won an award with us, and it was published on an anti-bullying network site. And the project reached millions and millions of people. She had messages and emails from people from all over the world telling her that the project had saved lives. It had stopped negative behaviors like self-harm. And I think what's so interesting about this, and we see it over and over again, is that it had come from her own personal experience of being bullied as a young girl. And I think sometimes it's easy for us, when we're a bit older and we're set into an industry, we think that we should be giving young people the problem and saying, right, this is the problem, here's the brief, you sort it out. But actually, when you let people come to the table with their own personal experience, whatever that experience may be, when it's personal to them, and then they mash it together with something that they love, that they're really good at, that's where magic happens. And so for us, it's all about empowering people to take those negative experiences and building on that, and then bringing them together and showcasing them and celebrating them.
Where on earth is your place of reset or recharge?
It's when I meditate, which I do every morning, without fail. But the place where I reset is in nature, and that is by the sea, the ocean. Water generally, but there's something about the ocean that it just changes every day, and it's so powerful, and it makes me feel really humble. I'm slightly scared of it, but I'm in awe of it.
What wonder of the natural world excites you the most?
I love the desert. Again, it's really frightening, but it's so beautiful. A number of years ago, I was privileged enough to travel from, I've got family in South Africa, and I traveled from South Africa to Namibia, overland, and I traveled through Namibia, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful country. And the desert there was just mind-blowing. And then, having the opportunity to meet with the Bushmen there and the way they live their life. They have an expression that if you have more that you can carry, you're greedy. And that really moved me. But again, if you were just dumped in the desert, you would very quickly die. So it has this sort of element to it that's really powerful, but frightening and beautiful.
Chrissy, what is your story of hopefulness that's not your own, about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world?
I'm going to choose one young man from my recent past, and a guy called Archie Moore, who is a young designer who is a graduate from Falmouth School of Art. And Archie created a project about, it was a typographic project. And you think, well, how can typography affect and change the world? Because it's just a bunch of letters, right? And I think this is a brilliant example how anything that we do can positively change the world. And so Archie created this project called Extra Bold, and I think you can find it actually if you search for it. And it's an open source platform that has designs, typographic letters and alphabets and designs to help activists communicate better with sort of clear, relevant typography for their marches and for their work. And I just love this because it was a completely selfless thing to put out in the world. It's really, really powerful. The power of words and typography and clear messaging is really, really important in movements and in organizations. And it was just beautifully designed, and it was really, really clever. So that's who I'd like to give a massive shout out to, and that's to Archie Moore.
Finally, as we prepare to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, what insight, wisdom or question would you like to leave with us?
So there's a little bit of a story attached to this, and I won't go too deep into it, but some years ago I found myself in a group, an Al-Anon group meeting. It's like AA, but it's for people who have lived with alcoholics or something like that. So it's a community group. And I found myself in this meeting, and I took a book away from that meeting, and there was one sentence in that book that has become a mentor for me personally, and I believe it's kind of relevant to where we find the world that we're in right now. And the sentence that I read in this tiny little book that I took was, "Out of despair comes great learnings." And I feel like the world and our society and political systems and everything that's going on is kind of in a place of despair. However, from that place of despair can come the learnings that we need to change things. And so that would be my little mantra that I would leave with you, Steve. Out of despair comes great learnings.
You can find out more about Creative Conscience at creative-conscience.org.uk. In her story of hopefulness, Chrissy spoke about Archie Moore, and you can find his project at extraboldfoundry.com. What is your story of hopefulness that's not your own, about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world? We would love you to consider recording yourself in under 30 seconds, sharing your story on your phone through your video or the voice memo or recorder app. You can then simply upload the recording to the link on our website, ourwonder.space, and we will look to include them in future episodes. I want to thank Chrissy for joining us on Wonderspace. Let's continue to share our stories of hopefulness that makes a name for someone else. We need them like never before. Thanks for listening.